but when we talk about some of the different classes,
We're live.
it has offensive linemen.
Well, that is good, Mr. 411. I'm glad we're starting out. Hello, everyone.
Yes. What's going on, people?
What's going on?
Greetings and salutations, everybody.
All right, man. There's a reason why we're in the Sports Brothers show, and this is a special edition, the NFL Draft Review edition. So if you recognize some of the people here, some of the players here, Zach, Calculator, Mr. 411, and we did conduct a draft along with Coy, aka Calvin, and now we're back to review some of the things that have happened from the draft, and just kind of put the draft to the close, close the door there on the draft, and they're going to move forward with the OTAs and all that kind of stuff. So, gentlemen, are you all ready?
Absolutely. And it seems like even if we ain't ready, you ready. So let's get it.
That's right.
All right. Sports Brothers, here we go.
Great to see y'all. I hope y'all had some wonderful and blessed days today.
Most definitely. How about you, Calculator?
Well, Mr. 411, I'm just glad you're having this show so I can air my grievances on some of the picks that I was not very happy with. It was a rough first night. So many highs and lows, and I'll go over that as we go over the different parts of the show.
So you mean Saints picks or picks in general?
Saints picks. That's the only thing that highs and lows, of course. They create the highs and lows. But I mean, let me tell you, as far as to have a draft and overall in general, to have as many trades, as many move ups, as many shocking picks from some picks that you weren't expecting, to not have a deep, talented pool is what we've been hearing about. It was definitely an eventful draft. So I was definitely had good time eating nachos and eating chicken wings, having a good time watching that unfold.
And I'll second that. I wouldn't say that it wasn't talented. I just say they didn't have the QBs, and whenever you don't have the QBs, you don't have like the sexy supermodels. But it was. I watched the whole first round. I didn't think I would be engaged like that, but I'm with you. The trades and things that they did, plus individuals falling that you thought were going to be higher, which we can get into that too.
Yeah,
made it very interesting to me.
Yeah, to see runs happen before your lives, and those runs, you see how the dominoes effect. These runs cause a lot of people you thought that were going to get picked high actually fall. And then what that does is it creates another set of dominoes of these people saying, whoa, this guy's falling. Let's make more trades to, leapfrog this other team that we think is going to get them and so forth. And then you're guessing what going to pick. And then if you're rooting for a team and then they don't pick what you're going to get, it's like, oh my God, what did you do all that for? So yes, it definitely calls for a lot of excitement.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of the draft went in a lot of different directions, especially early in the draft. So I know we'll touch on that in just a moment. But before we get to that side of the street, we got a couple little business things we have to take care of here. I'd like for everyone, first of all, welcome everyone to the show. Welcome back, everybody. You're going to be entertained today. Anytime you can get Calculator and Zach in the same room, it's going to be entertaining. But we need you to do something, though. To continue getting that entertainment, we need you to do the following.
I'm just going to say once again there, Mr. 411, you are getting so much better at that. It is like, you're just so nice and smooth. I mean, you're like a new age Billy D. Williams, though nobody probably knows who that is.
And Mr. 411, it's like muscle memory. You do it enough, you get real good at it, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Rep it, all those reps and doing it over and over again. Just like in the weight room, all those reps I did over and over again. They paid off.
Absolutely. Paid off. I can tell.
Yeah. Yep. So
I get you confused with The Rock sometimes.
Well, a lot of people do, but also DK Metcalf, guys like that. So, we all been in the same. We've been the same.
Yes, almost. You're almost like DK. Hey, if Seattle ever lets him go, you're just a smidge behind in the 40.
That's it. All right. Well, we got some bills to pay. Heavenly Spa Mobile, our top sponsor. Heavenly Spa Mobile, 2484.
We naming them top and not top. Ah, good job, Heavenly
man,
Spa.
I'm telling you, man. Heavenly Spa has been putting it together for us. 2484 Ingleside Avenue, Building A, Suite 101-A, Macon, Georgia, 31204. Latanya, she can be reached at 478-747-9231. 478-747-9231. Heavenly Spa Mobile, where relaxation is the key. And these gentlemen here have the key to success for the NFL teams. And we're going to jump right on into it. We're going to start off with topic number 1.
Okay.
Producers. All right, here we go. The draft. I mean, the first 2 picks of the draft. Walker from University of Georgia, someone on here's favorite team. Trayvon Walker went number 1 in the draft. Aiden Hutchinson went number 2. We're not shocked that Hutchinson was a top 1-2 pick, but what was you guys' take on Walker becoming number 1 pick?
Well, I think first, Mr. 411, you should probably do it because when we did our mock draft, you picked Trayvon Walker number 1. So go ahead and did that line up with what you were doing, or were you just kind of trying to throw a curveball for the draft?
Well, some of my intel was informing me that.
Wait, Mr. 411, you said you were basing your pick on demographics, and it's like, okay,
right. Yeah.
and it's just as logical, and hey, whatever helps,
Yeah, and that's what the intel was giving me. They were feeding me that. They say, hey, Jacksonville, Florida, University of Georgia, I mean, top pick here, defensive presence. And by the way, I mean, it doesn't mean that Hutchinson was not, worthy of being number 1 pick, but it's a business too. And in the case of, with Jaguars, if it's a tie and it goes to the runner, using baseball there, why not go with Walker? I know there was a little talk about, maybe he's on a stacked defensive team, but he must have thoroughly impressed them in the combines or on film. And he is a major disruptor, and it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Because by the way,
I heard. I'm sorry, Mr. 411. I didn't want to think. A lot of things I heard as well is the long arms that they were talking about too. That they said the word on the street.
Still my thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good. Hey,
I didn't mean.
Go ahead.
It's just they were saying the Jacksonville Jaguar GM, he is enamored with long arms for his edge rushers. So, they say there were a lot of people were talking about that could put over the edge, but I really liked Mr. 411 adding the demographics because that wasn't something I didn't even think about. It's like, Mr. 411, you pointed out a business is a business. And if you can draw more crowds, getting a guy closer to home, getting people that see the guy, because I guarantee you a lot of people that are going to be going to those Jacksonville games watched, Georgia games, especially when they play in Jacksonville every year against
at the same stadium
and stuff like that. So I mean that was a very clever move by you. So I like that.
Yeah, and he has to be, and on top of that, you have to be good. So with all those things,
that helps.
And he's good. It helps. He actually played high school sports at Upson League, which is maybe 40 miles from here, about 45 miles from Macon, Georgia. So he is a local area guy, and we're going to see how it pans out. But calculator, you selected Hutchinson at number 2 in our mock draft, and
I did
about him a
little
bit.
It was Zach.
Oh, I'm sorry, Zach. Zach, you did.
It's okay. We look alike and sound alike.
Yeah, we all do. Yep. But no, you did because you couldn't wait. Remember, you couldn't wait to go with number 2.
He was running up to the podium after you made Trayvon Walker pick, and actually, if y'all watched the draft, Detroit was right behind him after they announced that first pick too. It didn't take long for them to say Detroit's pick is in. They just had to milk it a little bit longer though. So,
Exactly. So, what's your thoughts on Hutchinson?
Well, I won't focus on Hutchinson as much. I'll just go with the both picks. I don't think anyone that tells you they know what's going to happen with either one of these guys, I think they're kind of crazy because if you're going to look at maybe the cons with Hutchinson, well, he only played 2 games. So he only played 2 games the year prior to this. So, and that's a COVID year. We know that was weird for everybody, but that's a lot of football that he didn't get to play. Year prior to that, he didn't have much. His sophomore year, he didn't have much production. He only had 3.5 sacks. So he popped this year. Now, some people, depending on how you might look at it, if you watched a movie called The Program, you might think that he got some extra help to do that possibly. Or maybe it's just a one-year wonder type. Like, who knows? But it was the production definitely jumped off the table, and it could just be the natural progression, the guy getting better. Who knows? And with Trayvon Walker, I think as it was stated earlier, he's been part of a stacked rotation, and he doesn't necessarily have production that jumps off the table with you. So you're really going off of his measurables, the being 6'5", 272, and a calculator was talking about the arms, but he has 35.5-inch reach with the arms, I believe. So those are things that I guess that you would be banking on. So with either one of these guys, and I guess you could throw in with Trayvon, then the 4.51 yard, 40-yard dash, which means absolutely nothing because I don't think the quarterbacks line up 40 yards from behind the center. So at all of that, when they actually get on the field, you can't really base it off of that. I wouldn't say. You have to, I guess, really have faith in what you see on film, have faith in what you've seen, I guess, from their measurables, and kind of go from there. And I think either one of these guys, they both could say go on and be Pro Bowlers and possibly all pros, or they could both go on and be bust. We see it many times in the draft throughout the years. As far as being a number one pick is great. That's like a badge of honor or whatever. But look at Baker Mayfield. It only means something if you go on and produce. Other than that, all it is that you get more money than the rest of the people in your draft class, and you should, quote unquote, get more opportunities to fail than the guy that's in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. I think for both individuals, if you flipped it, if Detroit had been 1, they'd have picked Hutchinson, and if Jacksonville was 2, they'd have picked Trayvon Walker. So the locale thing, as you were saying, works for either individual. Hutchinson ended up playing, I think, 36 college games. Trayvon Walker, 29. And I don't think the Big Ten is as good as the SEC. And Hutchinson dominated that, so you can kind of go with that because if Hutchinson had that type of production, but he was at a small school, people would talk about that. And Trayvon Walker, who said, was on a stacked team. I'll just say congratulations to both individuals, and that's probably me taking a pass, but I'll have to see how it plays out. It'll be I think an interesting test as far as the GMs, because if and more so Jacksonville than Detroit. If Jacksonville got this wrong, the people that made this pick and endorsed this pick, outside of the owner, they getting fired. Like, you can go on and they'll be cleaning out their lockers and they're done.
Well, I think a thing on that, Zach, is if what's really going to hurt the GM is if Aiden Hutchinson really outperforms.
Yeah.
If they're both bust, then the GM's like, hey, that Aiden Hutchinson guy didn't do anything either. What I was just going, what I thought would be better. But I think what's going to help Trayvon Walker out a little bit is also the team. I mean, Jacksonville has another guy named Josh Allen that's phenomenal on that defensive line. So they're not going to be able to concentrate pretty much all on Trayvon Walker. They got to watch out for Josh Allen, and the Buffalo Bills Josh Allen knows that guy by name because he was in the backfield all game long. So, you can't concentrate all your offensive protection to take out Trayvon Walker. You also got to worry about Josh Allen. Aiden Hutchinson, on the other hand, he's kind of like their only guy. There really is no standout in Detroit that I'm aware of that really popped off on the page to me last year and watching them. So I think that's going to help Trayvon Walker out as far as, not having to be able to be the captain of the defense, so to speak, right out of the gate. But of course, he's still going to have the spotlight early on being a number one draft pick. But I think his team situation is going to help him out as the year goes on as well.
Yep. If they just treat him, and I like what you said, if they just treat him like a football player and kind of like a prospect, and not that we're expecting you to get 20 sacks, whatever, we just need you to be a functional starter, then it'll be a good thing. Because as you said, he doesn't have to come in and be the man. He can just try to contribute and learn, and basically next year will be like his senior year. So it's kind of like a quote unquote red shirt year for him to get acclimated. And as I said with Hutchinson, he's at home. He will be a fan favorite. And I mean, I say both of them. Just be productive, solid starters, and playing the league for 10, 12 years. And both organizations should be happy with that.
Yeah.
Yep. And with that said, the question below, gentlemen, which one of these two will have the better rookie season, in your opinion?
Well, I'm gonna go with it should be easier for Trayvon Walker. Calculator just said it. He's got a guy on the other side, and unless Trayvon Walker comes in, he's Lawrence Taylor. He shouldn't be getting double teamed like that. He's gonna get single coverage. And I think a lot of people probably think that he was the wrong pick anyway. Whereas Aiden, he has individuals like he's gonna be earmarked that they will probably game plan for him, and he'll probably get maybe not a lot of double teams, but unless he just can't pass rush at all, he will probably get a good amount of double teams. And the win total should probably be easier for Jacksonville than it will be for Detroit. But who knows? Detroit had some games early on that they could have won. But I would guess that Trayvon Walker's season might be slightly better just from a win totals perspective, and their stats may be similar.
Yeah, it's interesting. What about you, Calculator?
I'm the same way. I think Trayvon Walker, due to his situation with the teams, is going to set him up to succeed quicker than Aiden Hutchinson. So that's why, I think he will have the better, and we say better season is just because I think he's going to have the counting stats that's going to, be, and when you want to, expand it even further, a team like Detroit, they're so bad against the run, teams really not going to pass on them. So they're just going to keep running. So what's it going to do? Less pass attempts, less chance for plays, big plays, less chance for counting stats for defensive linemen. So I think that in itself is also going to work against Aiden Hutchinson when it comes to counting stats. Now, he might be a run stuffer. He might be able to, get, stuff the line and help his other people do what they need to do. But I think Trayvon Walker is going to, I think Zach said it perfectly. He can just learn a lot of what's going on, and he can see, hey, what, he's going to have all this tape of what Josh Allen does and what's successful. And I think that's really going to help him out as well. So that's why I think Trayvon Walker, based on his situation, not necessarily their measurables or what they did in college, is going to set him up as having a better rookie season than Hutchinson.
And goodness, man. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
Well, I was just going to say, and think about it. That's like a defensive tackle. Think about Trayvon Walker's teammate that we may get to later on, Jordan Davis. He's a honestly big fat guy in the middle. He's not going to have stats like that. He will probably dominate, take double teams or whatever. Nobody cares about. Like, no one cares that you take on double teams and other guys get stuff. So, like, Hutchinson doing all of that. And the only stats they care about, like, he can go back there. He could get maybe 30 QB pressures. He could get – if he's not getting tackles for losses and sacks, as a defensive end, nobody will care. That's all they're going to go off of when you play that position. And probably the other great thing that Trayvon Walker has going for him, it better happen, because if it doesn't, this means way more for Jacksonville. Man, now I forgot his name off the top, but Trevor Lawrence should be better. Like, Trevor Lawrence should be, he better be taking like 2-3 steps forward this year, which will make it much easier, going back to what Calculator said, that now maybe you have some leads in the game and you can send the dogs after him. Because if Trevor Lawrence ain't better, then Jacksonville has a whole different bag of problems than anything else. So, I mean, and what does anybody expect from Jared Goff up in Detroit?
Yeah, he's not much. They're already talking about, they're looking at the quarterbacks for next year for Detroit to get a high pick next year. So that they can
all of that, it doesn't look good for Hutchinson if you're going with the counting stats.
All right. Speaking of stats, here's a stat right here on the board: 8.5 over under.
I'm going under. Because he's got 17 games. You got to go with, will he hit the rookie wall? Will he not hit the rookie wall? It'll be easier maybe to see when you figure out how Detroit's line plays out. But man, I'm with Calculator. A lot of football is about, and quarterbacks get away with this all the time. And this is why certain guys you can get in fantasy, that when you get behind as a quarterback, the defense is playing prevent on you. So you can go out there and throw the ball and do all of that other stuff, and you can get kind of those empty stats from the 20 to 20 or whatever. And at the same time, if you're on the losing end, a team is going to run the ball, maybe throw short passes, try to milk the clock, and just get out of the game. That just eliminates all of these possible pass rush opportunities you have.
Yeah, and when I looked at the betting lines that you put up, Mr. 4-1, one reason I think it's got, well, the one reason it's very good that it's set like that, because it makes you think. However, they're giving you free money almost on the under. What that means is I only got to risk 100, win 100. However, I think he's going to go over. I got to bet 125 to win 100. So I think to save myself on the VIG on this particular bet, not only do I think personally it's going to be under, I'm also getting more value for my money. But let me tell you something: 8.5 for 17 seasons. The only reason, and another reason I'm doing, is a rookie, because the rookie wall is real. We've seen it. It's not a myth. And when you're not used to playing that many games, he could be stuck at 7 for a while, depending on what point in the season.
And he might play in more road games in the first half of the NFL season than he did in Michigan last season.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and just to kind of add to that too, in 17 games this year, how many pro tackles will he go up against, or pro guards?
Oh yeah.
He'll go up against, in 17 games, he'll play against 17 professional tackles and guards. In college last year, he might have played 2-3 games against professional tackles and guards that you don't even know if they would be starters. He's going up against
we saw Georgia was able to neutralize them with their guys.
He's going to be going against grown ass men that need a paycheck to feed their families. Maybe he'll get a couple throwaway games where he gets a rookie like himself, or a young guy that probably ain't that good or whatever. And then even the quarterbacks. Think about a guy like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, whatever. They not letting you hit them. And he's got to go up against A-Rod twice. A-Rod's throwing the ball away. Mm-hmm. He can't go up against his own quarterback. He gets Justin Fields. So Justin Fields, he might be able to get some sacks against. And we'd have to look at the schedule. That's a high total.
Yeah, the only thing is he wasn't able to get Justin Fields in college, so now he's got to go against Justin Fields in the pros with pro offensive linemen. So
now he could have some big games, maybe against Chicago. Like he could have a 2-3 sack game because Fields runs himself around or what have you. But Aaron Rodgers, I'm not sure he gets a sack against Rodgers, and we'd have to break down the schedule.
Yeah. All right, that'll be a future show. All right, we got another topic coming up on the other side of this commercial.
Hi, I'm LaTanya. I'm the owner of Heavily Spun Mobile. I've been in this business 19 years plus. If you're in dire need of a massage for achy muscles, back, neck, shoulder, hip, legs, feet, come on down and schedule an appointment with me. You can't go wrong. There's nothing wrong with taking care of you because no one's going to be able to take care of you. I'm located at 2484 Ingleside Avenue, and that's in Building 8, and that's in Macon, Georgia. Again, you can go online to Heavenly Spa Mobile to schedule your future appointment, or you can reach out to me at 478-747-9231. I look forward to seeing you soon.
That is good, LaTanya. Thank you.
All right. We thank Heavenly Spa Mobile. Next topic, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for this one. Zach, the Georgia Bulldogs, they represented very well in this year's draft. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Put a picture up here. And the floor is yours. Talk about the University of Georgia and your thoughts on the draft, and in particular the defensive players.
Well, honestly, I know this is gonna maybe surprise people. It's not a big deal. Like it is for those young men, it's great that they got drafted, and Georgia set the record with 15 people drafted overall in the draft, 5 defensive players drafted in the first round, which set a record. For Kirby Smart, it's good, and the coach is there. Our buddy Dale, that we went to high school with, I played ball with, going to be good for him and those the other individuals. And of course, for recruiting purposes, it'll be good. It helps us get one step close to Alabama, and maybe we get to the point where we can win a few more championships. But if we're being real, does anybody think that this Georgia class is the greatest draft class? Like right now, I don't think it's beating that Steelers draft class that they had. What was 4 Hall of Famers or something in it?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet. And with some of the guys, like we just talked about Trayvon Walker, questions about him. I like Jordan Davis. I think he should be able to fill his role. But then we go with Quake Walker. I would think people might think that he was a stretch to the Packers, but hopefully he can end up being a quality starter. I had Lewis Seen and our mock going in the first round, and he has measurables. But once again, he's got to prove it on the field. And even Devontae Wyatt, like Devontae Wyatt, I said, not seeing him being the next Reggie Wright, but overall good for all of them. I'm going to give Calculator a little credit. George Pickens to the Steelers might be one of the better picks because they're a wide receiver developing organization. And with his talent, and this will reel him in personality wise, I would think, might not be bad. And outside of that, the only picks that might be the only 2 I feel good about: Pickens and Jordan Davis, and maybe Nakobe Dean to the Eagles in the 3rd round. But as I said, good for those young men. I think what was it? The Miami team that played like Ohio State back when Claret was there and all of them. I don't think Georgia has surpassed those guys just yet. All of those pros they sent. But as I said, it's a good start. I'm very happy. Any
closing remarks, Calculator?
Basically, I was surprised Pickens fell down as far as he did because, a lot of people talk about Pickens, but man, when the guy was healthy, he's going up against top corners in the SEC every day. And he was, his freshman year, he was awesome. Yes, he has a temper. People, realize that if they've watched the games a couple times. But when the guy was focused, it wasn't like he was catching, balls from Hall of Fame quarterbacks pro quarterbacks, going into the NFL. But he was getting open against good defensive coach teams time in and time out when he was healthy, and he did well. So I'll go over a little bit what I was hoping the Saints would have done, but I think the Steelers got, especially going to the Steelers. And I'm going to go on with Zach. Everybody sees what they do with receivers. Just take Antonio Brown.
Yes.
for instance, a nobody in college, and then all of a sudden he's with the Steelers, and he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Now Juju Smith-Schuster did have a pedigree out of USC going through a college, but I think he was far more successful than people thought he would have been when he went to the Steelers. And I mean, it's like they're turning around. They're like the Ohio State of the NFL. They get a receiver and then they develop and then they produce. Time in and time out.
They do a great job getting production out of it. Like whatever they're doing, other teams should kind of look at that.
Yeah,
because it's really good. And probably calculator. When you brought up Antonio Brown is probably the reason that a guy like Pickens, and maybe excluding the injury, gets picked lower, because wide receivers are so temperamental now. And then the fact that you can kind of cookie cut those guys and get similar production, my guess is you don't want to bring in a temperamental wide receiver. You'd rather have a team guy. And at least for the first contract, this should be George Pickens.
All right. Excellent talk there. But, UGA did a great job there. A lot of defensive players drafted. And if you want to be good at defense, and if you want to get in that ring and defend yourself, Butts Jr., he's the way to go. He can get your boxing skills up. He can get your personal training up and running. Check him out. Boxing Academy at 3555 Mercer University Drive, Suite 104-1, Macon, Georgia 31204. And the numbers are there below: 478-254-5442 or 478-319-1502. As you can see there, Mr. Butts is opening up multiple lines. So there's no reason to not reach out to Mr. Butts Jr.
Sounds good. And just one more thing with that. You asked from a Georgia fan perspective. Like, you look at all of those defenders that got drafted, and then you set the record for 5 in the first round. It just adds to the disappointment of the SEC championship when you gave up 41 points to Alabama. And as I said, Alabama's 2 receivers don't get injured. Maybe you're looking at University of Georgia a little bit differently come national championship time. But as I said, I'm happy and proud of all of those guys.
All right. Now, are the certain franchises, our Tennessee Titans, Atlanta Falcons, Pittsburgh Steelers, those come to mind. Are they going to be excited about their quarterback decisions? So let's talk about the quarterback situation. We have Malik Willis, Pickett, Desmond Ridder, and Matt Corral. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the quarterbacks?
I think Pickett is set up for success early on, because he was picked to be the starter. Another hometown guy is going to be comfortable. He's comfortable with the weather. Been there. He's very mature, and the Steelers got weapons for him. They're not. They got another year of a top running back that can be a workhorse for you. They got, again, bring back Deontay Johnson. We talked about them drafting another receiver. I think if you take the top quarterbacks, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, and we'll just go Ridder as well, I think he's going to be set up to succeed above them. Everything I heard on the Willis scouting report and why he fell is because a lot of people think he's a raw project. He's a lot of the scouting reports were coming out saying he could be the top by far in this draft, or he could be a 6th round project. A lot of the scouts were divided on Malik Willis, and that's, I think, what caused him to fall. So I think it kind of was good that he could be like a McNair, going to the same team. If you look at it, sit behind Tannehill, learn the offense, groom him a little bit, and then when Tannehill's reach the escalators in his contract, they cut him loose, and then Malik Willis is there. Well, and you guys are a Falcons fan. What do you think about your Falcons quarterback pick?
Go ahead, Mr. 411.
Oh, I was going to wait. I thought you said Seattle. Oh, okay. Well, we can look at it this way. Okay, we're gonna rewind that just a little bit. You know, I'm looking forward to see what Seattle's gonna do this year, and but
they
as
pick
far as
one
the
of these
Falcons,
quarterbacks.
but as far as the Falcons are concerned, you know, Ritter was round 3, pick 74. He has a lot to say already. He's I mean, he had a good college career. Seems like he has a lot of energy behind him. He could be the quarterback of the future for the Falcons, but and he's going to have some weapons. He's going to have some big receivers to be able to throw to. But I think it's hit or miss with Ritter. Hit or miss with him. Great job there at the University of Cincinnati, but now you're into the big leagues, and I think you know I'm a little concerned about his arm strength, and of course him being young, being able to catch up with the NFL game. So based on who they have now coming in, and correct me if I'm wrong, they brought in man, what's his name? He was over at the Raiders last year.
Mariota?
They brought him in.
Mariota.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota. So depending on how long he's out there, Ritter may have to jump out there and play a lot sooner. So we'll see how that goes. What's that you, Zach?
I guess going to Ritter, I think one thing that is overlooked, which I find funny, the NFL or teams and fans and everything, they put such a premium on quarterbacks. Like they'll overdraft them and everything to try and find a starter. But then they never worry about having a backup to have somebody competent when your guy gets injured. I mean, kind of like you saw that in Seattle last year, and it happens all over. So if Desmond Ritter can just be a productive backup, kind of like Vince Evans back in the day, or Frank Reich up in Buffalo, like that is invaluable that you could have a guy, say, for, I'll just say it was again 10, 12 years, that holds a clipboard. If you need him to come in, he can be a starter and get you through a 3 to 4 game stretch while your guy is out. And I say that for all of these individuals. With Kenny Pickett, what we didn't emphasize is not only did Pittsburgh, he's a hometown guy, but literally, and I didn't know this until they talked about it in the draft, but the Pittsburgh Panthers and the Steelers share the same football facility. So they definitely got to get a good look at Kenny Pickett, and they should have more information on him than anybody out there. Do I think he's going to be great? I'm not sure of that, but I don't know a lot about the guy. Once again, can you get him to be a serviceable starter? Can he be Derek Carr with the Raiders? Like, if you could get him to be Derek Carr with the Raiders, that's great. Or if you even want to go maybe a tier down for that. But that right there would be good until you find your guy, and he's a prospect. With Malik Willis, this wasn't actually overly shocking to me. Like Malik Willis, I was more shocked that people were talking about him going as high as he was going. If he'd have won the first round, I wouldn't be mad about it. But I don't think he has any truly dynamic attributes that make you just say, like, he's not a Trevor Lawrence. He's not one of these generational guys coming out that you just have to pick. He'll get the opportunity to go out there and show, can he do it? Now, it's a little funny that Tannehill isn't being more receptive to showing the guy anything or whatever, because I don't think Tannehill should be overly worried about him, but about his ability. And if you just go back and look at some of the Liberty games, he was solid at Liberty. He was good. He made himself into a draft pick. But I think that pub that he got going in to the draft is what really did this. If we didn't know about all of the publicity he was getting and they just drafted the guy, you're like, okay. So good pick for Tennessee. All of these guys will get the opportunity to prove themselves. And, we'll see. But as with everything, we see this every year. Quarterbacks come along, and all we got to do once again is go back to Baker Mayfield. Go to Sam Darnold with the Jets. Like, that draft had a lot of guys that are leaving teams wanting for more now. Daniel Jones, I believe, was part of that draft. So
Josh Rosen was part of that.
Yes. Forgot about Chosen Rosen. Like it's the only one that worked out was what Lamar Jackson, and to be honest, I think Baltimore still has some questions about him. So, quarterback is a tricky thing.
Yes, it is.
It is, and it takes a lot, a lot of precision, if you will, at the quarterback position, and also at the wide receiver position, because that's what we're going to talk about next too in a moment, is the wide receiver position as well. But before we do that, we have a sponsor, Precision Tune Auto Care.
This is new.
Yes, Mr. James Spicer is the owner, and he is located at 1210 Watson Boulevard, Warner Robins, Georgia. Calculator 31093. And as you can see, he can be reached at 478-923-6510. America's Neighborhood Auto Care Experts, Precision Tune Auto Care. Check out Mr. Spicer.
Well, I'm gonna have to check him out. My air conditioning's on the fritz on my Acadia, man. I might have to. Hey, I'm glad we got a car place as a sponsor, and right down the road from me too. I like it, Mr.
Exactly.
411. Definitely gonna have to tag that.
All right.
Well, this sponsorship is going well. Look, my pockets might need to get a little fatter now.
And hey, Mr. 411, we need to talk to him, see if he's going to give discounts to show people for your show.
Yeah,
because air conditioning service ain't cheap.
Hey, exactly. This is the 411 Sports World. That's the code.
Okay, there you go. Promo code.
We're gonna go ahead and give him the code anyway, right? All right.
There you go.
All right. Well, yes, we appreciate Mr. Spicer and his contributions to the show. All right. Wide receivers, gentlemen.
Oh.
There they are. Let's talk about them. Calculator, you can kick it off.
Well, I think out of all of them, I think London is going, even though he was picked first and everything, I think overall, Garrett Wilson was the best receiver out of everybody. Most polished, intermediate routes, deep routes. He could do everything. I really like Garrett Wilson the best as an overall grade. However, if you look at situation, I always talk about situation when I think he's going to succeed. Falcons going to be behind a lot. Going to be a lot of passes in the air. And London has a big body. And he's not going to be all the focus because you still got Pitts on the other side as well. So I think London is in the best situation to succeed. But overall, I think Wilson is the best overall receiver. But I think London's going to have the best stats. If you want me to look at him, I being a Saints fan, I'm not a fan of what the Saints had to give up to move up to get a prospect like Olave. I think Olave had a lot of help. Getting one-on-one defenders because he had Wilson on the other side of him. So again, we'll probably get to talk about our teams and what they did in the draft, so I won't go too far on that. I think Jameson Williams, we talk about floor and ceiling. I think Williams has the highest ceiling, but again, he has to rehab through his injury. He could be behind the 8 ball when it comes to training camp, depending on how long it takes for his recovery from the injury. So I think Wilson's the best receiver. I think London's going to have the best stats, but I think overall, if everything works out with rehab and stuff, I think Jameson Williams is going to have the best first 5 years in the league.
Okay, Zach.
Well, I'm kind of shocked because I'm going to go. I think Drake London, I am not sold on him at all. And you want to talk about the Falcons, if we were giving winner losers ratings, I have them as a loser just because I don't understand what they did. Because you back up a year, you had an opportunity to get a quarterback. And I think you could have taken Mac Jones or Fields last year. You don't take either one of those guys. Fields is still trying to find his footing, but he was at least a quarterback prospect. And Mac Jones proved that he could be at least an average starter on a team. So you could have had either one of those guys sit behind Matt Ryan for a year. You took a tight end. And I don't care how good what's his face is going to be as a damn tight end. And I watched him in Florida, and he ate Georgia up. He was amazing and everything. Unless he's going to go out there and get like 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns a year, and I'm not even sure that, he's not anything the NFL hasn't seen before. So you'd have done better getting you a quarterback. Now we fast forward to this year. You trade Matt Ryan, and you draft Drake London. Like Drake London, okay. And like Calculator said, he may get some of them stats, them empty stats that I talked about earlier, that when you're behind and the team is in prevent, and he could go out there, get 1,000 yards and have like 2 touchdowns. I don't see him being that impactful. And that's why I said, Calculator, I'm shocked. The Chris Olave pick, I'm good with for them. He's going to be
not for the price that they gave to go up and get him. Because let me tell you, to move up to draft Olave, they could have gotten better. I think if they would have just stayed picked to get a receiver, that Burke out of Arkansas, I'd have been just as fine with him if they would have stayed picked. I mean, but you're giving up, trading first-round picks and then another first-round pick to move up to get a receiver that I don't think is so far separated from what was already left on the table. That's my problem. Hey, I like Olave. I just didn't like what the Saints had to give up to get Olave, because in our mock draft, I actually had Jameson Williams going to the Saints in the mock draft because I like him better than Olave one-on-one. When I compare 1-to-1, but I really was upset with what they traded up to get Olave. I mean, I know they were looking at who was in front of them, and they saw the 2 receivers go off, and then I really think the Saints panicked when they saw those first 2 receivers, because a lot of the mock drafts had the Falcons picking a receiver. Of course, even our mock draft, we had them picking Wilson, or I might have picked for him and had him Wilson. And to go back to the Falcons, I was surprised that they passed up on Charles Cross, because I thought the first 3 offensive linemen would have went before the Falcons pick, and the Falcons need an offensive line. It's not going to, Mr. 401 had a great meme last year when Cincinnati picked. Pick their wide receiver ahead of Burrow, and you see the meme of Burrow getting sacked over and over and over, and it looked like that was happening in the playoffs. Now, yes, Chase, worked out pretty good from that perspective, but I think Burrow's lost 3 years in NFL longevity based on the beating he took on all the sacks he had in the playoffs. So you got. I mean, I thought London was going to be the pick, because all the top, because there were 3 offensive linemen and everybody else under them is what it looked like to me. So when I saw Charles Cross out there, I said, oh man, the Falcons probably didn't think Stingley was going to go as high as they were, pushing the offensive linemen down, and they still went with their board. They said, okay, we went. And I'm also going to back up the Falcons on this. I'm going to give them a little cover. They didn't expect Ridley to do what he's been doing, the personal leave last year, the gambling while he was on personal leave to get a year suspension, so that they would need that. They thought it was going to be Ridley and Pitts, that was going to be their building blocks, and then they could elsewhere. And then all of a sudden their top receivers gone for now what's going to be 2 years, if you count last year and this year.
Correct.
So I got to give
and he should be gone longer.
So I think to help the Falcons. Now, again, I think they could have gotten a receiver later in the draft, and they could have drafted Charles. I would have drafted Charles Cross in that position, help that offensive line. Of course, maybe they think, hey, Mariota's, more mobile than Matt Ryan, and he's going to be able to run around, but you can only do that for so long as well. I think they messed up in sticking to the board and not moving with the way the draft was moving. They didn't move. When you zig, a lot of times you zag. They stuck. It was like, okay, we're going to go receiver and hit the top receivers, this guy, and we're going to pick them. And I think that's what's going to hurt them in the long run.
Well, I will go back to your team there, Calculate. Tell me this, because I don't know. Are they still going to be running the same system offensively that they ran when Peyton was there?
Yes, and that's why they kept the coaching in-house. They didn't go out and get a new coach. And if you remember that year, Sean Payton was gone. Dennis Allen was in there and doing their thing, and so well, it wasn't Dennis Allen was the offensive coordinator at the time, but Peyton being there so long and having their guy, they've had the system in play for so long. It's yes, you're not going to be able to be as innovative because I think Sean Payton was very good at that. However, Sean Payton did have his faults, but the good thing about Sean Payton is he could, but even though we saw last year he could only do so much when they were down doing their practice squad on the offensive line out there, near the end of the season. I think they're going to be able to run the same. They weren't looking at quarterback. They were looking at, hey, Jameson Winston's coming back. They went and got Andy Dalton. And people don't relate. Yes, Ian Book was a guy they drafted last year out of Notre Dame. He's kind of like a Drew Brees clone in that he's kind of smaller a statue. He likes to play. He's very intellectual at the quarterback position. And I think they still kind of have faith in him. A lot of people say, "Well, look what he did last year." Well, yeah, but when he had that start last year, he was going against a blitz-heavy team in the Dolphins, and he had his third string left tackle. He had his second string right tackle. He had two second strings guards, two second strings guys playing on offensive guard. The only guy he had started was the center. And Michael Thomas wasn't out there catching balls for him. So yeah, Troutman got hurt, so he had his second string tight end, and so they were just blocking with the tight end in that game, and that didn't help because Miami just kept sending more and more people. So I'm going to give Ian Book a pass on last year on his start and say, hey, let's see what that is this year. And I think that's what the Saints are doing. It's like, hey, we're going to go with Jameson Winston. We got a good backup. We're going to give Ian Book another year to learn, see what he does, and then the draft, the heavy quarterbacks are coming out next year, and then if this doesn't work out this year, then they can draft their quarterback next year. I just didn't really like and again, I'll go over that when I dissect the Saints draft and what they could have done.
Yeah,
and
I know you.
And I get the compensation part. Yes, I was gonna say, and I get the compensation part. I'm sorry, Mr. 401, but if you just look at the pieces and what Olave can do, he ran a 4.39. If that translates, if Michael Thomas comes back and he ain't dragging his ass anymore and he actually wants to play football, you got Alvin Kamara. If Winston can just pick up where he left off last year and be solid, I mean, I like Olave with Wilson. Wilson, quote unquote, might be the better guy, but it is so hard to evaluate these guys that come from these stacked teams. And you see it all the time with the quarterbacks in college when they throw into these dudes that run on air. Ohio State has what's his name? Njinba, and I'm probably saying that wrong, along with Marvin Harrison Jr. coming back as wide receiver. They had a stacked wide receiver room. As I said, the compensation I get, but if the guy can, if he can be a starter and if he can bring that speed element, it's not like for the fit. If he was going to be the number one, I'd say yes, you should be severely upset. But if he can fit into his role, as far as what it would do for the offense, I don't think it's bad. As I get the compensation, all that stuff, I get all that. But ultimately, can the guys go on the field, fit their role, be starters or whatever, and just kind of do that thing? And I don't think it's that bad looking at what everybody else did, because the other guys you talked about, Williams for Detroit, he's injured. Drake London, I think the Falcons messed that up. And hell, as much as I'm down on George Pickens, some of the dudes they took in the first round, you about right. You could have took Pickens over some of them dudes. So. And I would say this too. Olave went to a very good organization. An organization can make up for maybe some of the things you're lacking as a player.
Well, I'm gonna use my crystal ball and and also throw in a little of modern medicine and the ACL injuries. They used to be really, 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 really a dire situation for an athlete. But I think that with Jameson Williams, I think he has a
Yeah.
great opportunity there. I think he has a great opportunity in Detroit, and I say that because there's a guy named Saint. There's a guy. There's a guy named Saint Pierre that is a budding wide receiver in Detroit, and he was breaking out last season. And you mentioned it earlier that Detroit is looking for their quarterback in the future. So if we're pushing this 5 years out over the course of 5 years, if Williams is as polished as we think he is, barring the injury situation, I think he's going to be set up nicely in that dome up there. So long term, I think he will be the receiver out of these four to go with. I do love the Olave conversation that you all had, because yes, the Saints have a system in place, and it's great to know that Peyton, even though he left, they're keeping the system the same way.
Yes,
So that works out as well. So those are my two guys there as far as the receivers go.
Williams definitely has a speed factor. The only thing I worry about him, he is slightly built. And I know the NFL isn't as physical. So as long as he can, quote unquote, handle the pounding, he definitely has a speed element. This is where I go back to
There's no doubt about it.
Hey, go back to some of the highlights, SEC championship, when he ran past the corner and the safety that was over the top. That should not ever happen. And he ran by him like it was young. Look, and he's an Ohio State guy too. So Olave might not be that good in your book, their calculator, but Williams thought he was good enough that he couldn't get a spot. And he said, I'm going to leave.
All right. Well, guess what, Zach? You mentioned being slight of build, and maybe the receiver needs to catch up with Keith Morgan at PT with Grit, because after this commercial break with PT with Grit, you'll see why.
Maybe we need to send Williams there while he's doing his off-season workouts.
Oh yeah, definitely. And if he's watching the show tonight, check out the website ptwithgrit.com and take a look as to how he can transform his body.
Well, that will definitely help Williams out.
Absolutely. Check out Keith Morgan at ptwithgrit.com. And the beautiful thing about what Keith Morgan is doing, he has plans that are, he will assess you, and he'll tailor the workout plans to your body and to your needs and to your goals. So if Williams wants, as you stated earlier, he's slight of built, but if he gets with PT with Grit, that can change things. That could change the game. And it could lead into our next topic, which is right now he's a receiver, but maybe he can get with PT with Grit and get a running back body. So we're going to talk about the backs.
I
let's talk.
Don't think that's gonna happen for him, but yes, he can definitely get some more man bones on.
Exactly. Okay, there was some interesting picks here with the running backs in the draft, fellas. So Brees Hall, Walker come to mind, and there's others on here too. But what's your take on the running back situation this year in the draft?
If I was gonna, I guess start. It is, kind of like eating broccoli. It's it's good for you, whatever. It probably has, some great things that'll happen down the road for you, but you ain't excited about it. That's not what you really want to eat on the plate, as you can see from how nobody got drafted, no running backs got drafted in the first round, correct?
Correct.
Like,
that's
so
correct.
These guys, they'll go in, they will compete. This is kind of sort of the new NFL, because what they'll do, one or two things typically. They draft a guy in the first round when he's, say, 21, 22. He's under contract for 5 years. That takes him to, say, 26, 27. They franchise him. That takes him to 27, 28. Franchise him again. And that takes him to, 28, 29. And then you ain't got to pay him no more, because they're pretty much at that 30-year-old threshold. Or maybe you give them a 1 or 2 year deal and you save money on them. Getting these guys in the second round is good, because you're going to, if they are any good, you chew them up, kind of like Derrick Henry for 2-3 years on that rookie deal. League kind of a little more than league average, but they're getting the decent money. And that's it. Maybe you franchise them. Maybe you give them a solid contract, kind of like what a Green Bay did with he's from UTEP. I should know that since I'm out here. Can't think of the young man's name, running back. I think it's 33 up there with the Packers.
Jones?
Yeah,
Aaron
Jones. Jones.
Yeah.
Like he got a contract, but he didn't get humongous money. And depending on their situations they're in, as I said, cookie cutter, they'll go in and contribute, but you just kind of bring a guy in, churn him up, spit him out, see if he works, go to the next guy. So good for all of them. Walker, from a physicality standpoint and speed standpoint, was very impressive. But I didn't see the guy at, I think it was Iowa State, Brees Hall, too much, but supposedly he's supposed to be pretty good too. So those teams are probably going to get way more than what they invested in. So I don't know if your Saints got one of those backs calculated, but maybe that would make you happy to make up for the draft picks they got.
That's one thing we didn't need was a running back, but I wouldn't have been surprised they pick one. But no, I mean, I think the people that don't like the running backs are the people on the teams that drafted the running back. For example, Michael Carter was, supposed to be the nice high pick for the Jets last year. So they picked the number one running back in this class this year. So Michael Carter said, "What I did pretty good, And then Rashad Penny said, I'm finally healthy. And then, Walker comes in the door. It's like, it's like, what's going on here? So I think a lot of people are drafting based on, and you want to talk about slided bill. Michael Carter is kind of like that slided bill guy. And I think a lot of people are going to take the page book out of what the Green Bay does so well. They have the Aaron Jones, the pass catcher, and then they have the bruiser they can put in the fourth quarter, like AJ Dillon. So it's like, hey, this could be the same thing with a Kenneth Walker and a Rashad Penny. So Rashad Penny, kind of wear these guys down and then bruise them with Kenneth Walker at the end of the game, and like you said, not use a high draft pick on them, so they don't have to spend a lot of money on them. And then when somebody starts wanting more money, they say, hey, we'll just draft another guy in the third round next year if you're going to do this. Derrick Henry's always the exception to the rule. He's the one guy that says, okay, you're going to have to pay him because he is the focal point of a defense and he is that good. But then we saw what Derrick Henry happened last year. Even the Yeti can get, dinged up.
All of
injury.
If you look at it. Old boy with the Panthers.
McCaffrey can't stay healthy.
He had his 1,000, which was really good. He's dynamic. He gets injured, and you paid him that money. And look, I loved him coming out of Georgia. Happy he got his money. Todd Gurley. As soon as the Rams paid, like you could just you throw them all out there.
Yep.
Todd Gurley got paid, and I think he gave you one good season, and that was about it. Ezekiel Elliott paid him.
Hadn't been the same.
Like
hadn't been the same since he got the
just
money.
Don't pay. And I want to say the Raiders, and I kept talking to Mr. 401 that hey, if the Seattle was going to make a trade last year, prior to this year, send Russell Wilson to the Raiders for Derek Carr and bring back Josh Jacobs, because I like Josh Jacobs as a running back, and I think the Raiders just let him go, did they? Or if they didn't let him go, they didn't pick up his fifth-year option or something. Because, like you said, they churn him up. If you start asking for more money, like not a problem. We'll get somebody else in.
Yeah.
Well, you remember Jamal Anderson with the Falcons, 1 year.
Oh yeah.
Dirty Bird.
Y2J. He was doing it. He was at Y2J.
Yeah.
After the same after he got
400. Then 400 carries later, he's gone. So, and then how about Saquon Barkley? I mean, the jury's still out on him, and he's a super talent. But
I don't think they picked up his option.
Yeah.
I think this is his prove it year coming up.
Yeah. And what I see from this is like it's the nature of the position. Running back, I think the average lifespan is like 2 seasons anyway. And they're in there. They're getting these collisions. I mean, having an Emmitt Smith type career is not, is not the norm. You can even look at the great Bo Jackson and look at how his running back career, was cut short. And but I did remember in our draft, I believe I selected Breece Hall to be the running back for the Buffalo Bills, because I thought Buffalo needed, a back that they can kind of count on a little bit. And that was one of the key pieces on the offense that I thought that they were lacking. So I thought he might have went there. But as you all stated, where they're drafting the running backs, and we'll definitely touch on that again in a little bit, I think it kind of worked out for these teams.
And they did get it back. They got a guy out of Georgia, James Cook.
Okay, very good.
But I don't think he's
not in the first round, though.
They got a guy. And just to kind of add one thing to what you were saying, Mr. 411, I'd say what has hurt running backs also is the NFL, the rule changes that you don't have to build your offense around running backs anymore. That the freedom that quarterbacks and wide receivers get, that to a degree, it just makes more sense to invest in those positions more. And, running backs have been a victim, unfortunately. Yep. At least some of them. Like I said, as I just stated, some of those guys got their money, but overall, it just ain't like it was back in the day where running backs when you would get the Kijana Carters out of Penn State, and you got all of these high-powered guys that would get drafted out of college, Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson. It was just so running back centric. Now, do colleges even care about running backs like that anymore? I mean, I know Georgia cares about theirs, but
it's more 7-on-7 in football. It's turning more to 7-on-7.
I don't think anybody's getting the gold Trans Ams anymore at the running back.
Oh man, you went back. But yeah, and I'm glad you did that. But we're going to play a game, gentlemen, right after this brief commercial break. All right.
Yeah. I don't usually do this, but Taylor, oh my God. Can I sing to you? Yeah. Yours, mine, ours. I could do this for hours. Sit and talk to you for hours. I wanna give you your flowers and some champagne showers. All the shrimp and lobster towers. But it's me that gets devoured. Ooh, when you do what you do, I'm empowered. You give me a superpower. Together the world.
Hey, calculator. Hey,
yeah.
This show has turned into a pretty good show for me. My agent and I are getting excited. We got all this sponsorship now.
I say, I think we have more sponsors than we had. detailed descriptions.
I know. Look, hey, I'm feeling good.
Hey man, no wonder Zach. You can get more shirts like what you have on there, man.
Well, thank you.
There you go.
Hey, I gotta talk to my boy LeBron and see. Hey, what is Rich Paul? And
I say
them
we're
got
not gonna
going
have much
on with
room
me?
for people now, man, with all these sponsors. Yeah, start
Good.
doing eliminations.
Look, pray.
Yeah.
Look, hey, I need an audit done to see who's doing what now.
Yeah.
Oh man! All right, it's time for this or that, and this worked out perfect.
You can get
So
with
this or
this,
that.
or you can get with.
Exactly, Zach. All right, taking us back to the day there. All right, this or that is pretty simple. There's going to be two names up on the board, right, or going across the crawl, and then you're going to shout out which one that you're going to take, one or the other, over the other. All right, here's the first two: Ahmad Gardner or Derek Stingley Jr. Calculator.
All right. Well, I'm taking Gardner, and the main reason I'm taking Gardner, yes, Stingley was drafted ahead. Hey, as a freshman, Stingley was amazing. He had that awesome LSU team. He buckled down. He just had trouble staying on the field after that. And I don't know if he was, kind of, he had his mind. He said, hey, I'm going to be a high draft pick. I don't know. I've already showcased my abilities. I don't need to go out there, and they, they weren't very good, after their championship year. So I think he kind of didn't have the motivation, in my opinion, watching a lot of SEC football. I didn't see Stingley out. And when he was out there, he didn't seem as dynamic as he was when he started out. Ahmed Gardner, smaller school, people kind of, stayed away from him, so a lot of times the best sign of a cornerback is when people don't throw your way, so because they realize, a lot of people, when they talk about Derek Rivas, being such a good cornerback, and me and Dr. Sachs, a guy I've had many conversations with, he is a big Champ Bailey fan, thinking he's the best. I'm more, of a Deion Sanders fan, and we've had, discussions about that. And I said one of the best things about Deion Sanders is when they did throw his way, he made him pay. So that's why nobody even tested him, even when he got older. And just look at the swings somebody like Deion Sanders caused when he was with the 49ers, they won Super Bowls. When he went to Dallas, they won Super Bowls. So, so I mean, he took a side of the field and took it away. I don't think you're really gonna. I mean, don't get me wrong, Gardner or Stingley, I'm not putting them in the same breath of Deion Sanders, but we're talking about what important a cornerback position can be, and I think the Jets, when they were drafting, they wanted one of the top two cornerbacks in their draft, and they knew they were going to get it based on their draft position. And they actually had Ahmad Gardner as their top rated on the Jets scouting report. So, they got their guy. And if I was to take the ball, I like Gardner just because I saw him on the field more than I did Stingley. I think Stingley does have the better talent, but to be a cornerback, you got to be on the field. And you got to have that desire, to want to be on the field. So again, I'm just going based on what I saw. If Stingley would have played the same his sophomore year as he did his freshman year and so on, I would think Stingley's a better player. But an overall body of work, that's why I'm just taking Gardner ahead of Stingley.
All right, Zach.
Yeah. I'm gonna break my rule here. I'm gonna break my rule kind of sort of with NFL draft picks, but not how I've done it with women in life. I'm taking a pretty girl, and that is Derek Stingley. I know Derek. Look, I know Derek Stingley's been bad the past couple years, and look, I'm gonna make excuses for him, just like I make for the pretty girl. It's okay that she don't cook. She, she had other things she had to focus on. It's okay that she hangs out with her girlfriends at the club every night. She's just very social. It's okay that she talks to this guy. She's just very friendly. I'm going to make all these excuses, and I'm going to give Derek Stingley the benefit of the doubt because his freshman year, and I know he was on a very talented – the defense wasn't extremely talented, but the offense was talented, and here we go back to that, situational football when you're playing from a lead, so you can now attack the opposing offense differently as a defense. But man, for him to be a freshman, and look, I know you laugh and you kind of joke and poke fun that I was a really good corner in college, and I wasn't half bad. As a freshman, Stingley is the best. Stingley is the best corner that I have seen as a freshman, like bar none. I was amazed that he came from high school and he goes to college and he played as well as he did. They had another guy. I can't think of his name right now. I apologize for that. That I want to say got drafted on the other side as a corner at LSU, and they picked on him instead of Stingley. Stingley ran a 4.3740, which I always say anything under 4.4 when you're in them 4.3s, you can absolutely move as a human being. He is shorter than Garner, but he's, more sturdily built since he is a smaller guy. I'm going to just go with Stingley. That's it. No other reason than the attributes, and this just is the pretty girl thing. He may not be I end up marrying him, and he may be the worst wife you could ever have because the only attribute he has is looking good, and we know looks fade. But damn it, I'm taking him. And Gardner, he has some things too, probably in the Richard Sherman mode. If you want a Seattle guy that you maybe could compare him to, but yeah, I'm going with Stingley. I can see why the Texans did it.
All right, okay. Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett? We'll just bring you back in, Zach, and then we'll go to this calculator.
Look, there are a few organizations in the NFL that are pretty good at what they do. I think when you think the New England Patriots, they're a pretty well-ran organization. Green Bay has a philosophy. I know people get on them, but they're a well-ran organization. The Ravens are pretty good, and we can throw out some others, but the Steelers are a well-ran organization. If the Steelers pick Kenny Pickett over Malik Willis, I got to go with Kenny Pickett also, because I don't think that they would do that, haphazardly. So Kenny Pickett it is.
Yeah, and I'll echo that too. I thought Kenny Pickett was the top prospect in the draft overall to begin with, even though Malik Willis was getting a lot of hype and a lot of moving up the boards in the mock drafts and everything going on. But Pickett was steady, and people might not understand. The guy can run too. I mean, he's no joke. That run he made in the ACC championship where they thought he was going to take a knee and he just kept going. That was beautiful. And the man, I mean, he runs a pro system, so he's already pro ready, and he's going to an organization. And I got to echo, Pittsburgh. They knew that, hey, a lot of people didn't know about Ben Roethlisberger when he was coming out of college. I didn't know about him, but the Steelers did, and I think I think Pickett, the Steelers kind of had an unfair advantage of almost scouting Pickett up close and personal at practices, during the college season. So yeah, I got to side with the Steelers as well. I think Pickett is the better player, and he's going, like I said, I think he has a better chance to actually get the draft, to get to start. Trubisky is going to be a great battle because I think Trubisky's a decent quarterback, and Rudolph, our Mason, he's a backup. So we know he's going there. He's going to be the guy that he just wants to be that third guy. Practice squad almost, depending on how many players the Steelers are going to bring with them day in and day out. But yeah, I like Pickett above Malik Willis on this one.
Okay.
And Tennessee isn't a terrible organization because we kind of forget about it. But Ryan Tannehill wasn't super great when he was in Miami or anything, so they helped turn him into a competent quarterback. They very well could do the same thing with Willis, but I'm gonna have I have to trust in the Steelers because they've done this for years now, where they are a very competent organization.
Well, I think the Tannehill issue also goes back to his quarterback when he coach back in Miami and head coach in Adam Gase. He's not known for his offensive acumen. He's been known to ruin more than a few quarterbacks at this in this day and age, and that's why he's no longer in the league. Because after he did that, he did a number on Sam Darnold. So but I think Titans. They're still going to be a run first team though. So as long as they got Derrick Henry out there.
Yep. Wow.
Hey, so in a tribute to you, Mr. 401, I believe what calculator is saying is Adam Gase is a offensive coordinator. Yes,
offensive.
Offensive.
Yeah. And the last one here, speaking of offense, the wide receiver position, and we touched on this earlier with the receivers, but pick one here, this or that. Garrett Wilson or Jameson Williams.
I'll go back to the Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf debate where you have the high floor guy and the high ceiling guy. And at that particular moment, the high floor won out between Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. So same thing. I like Garrett Wilson above just because I think he has the higher floor. Jameson Williams, we saw his ceiling, what he can do. But as far as right now, at this point, I'm taking Wilson. He's also not coming off an injury, a season-ending injury. Yes, ACLs get repaired rather quickly now in this day and age, but I'm still going to take Garrett Wilson. And I believe Zach said something when he mentioned Olave. Jameson Williams is the one that was switching teams when they were all on the same team for some reason or not. So, that could have something to read into it as well. But if I have to pick between Williams and Wilson, I'm going with Garrett Wilson.
All right.
Well, go ahead, Mr. 401. I'm sorry.
No, all right. I was going to pass over to you, but you did a great job there seamlessly. So go ahead, Zach.
Well, if you look at the historical data already, they both went to the same college, and Williams had to transfer to get some play time. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean much because our guy in Cincinnati, this QB now, he left Ohio State because of the quarterbacks they had, went to LSU, and ended up working out pretty well for him.
Yeah, I'll say so, slightly.
You would say Ohio State made a mistake. As a prospect, I like Wilson better. I don't like that. I don't like Williams is so thin, and he's kind of. I've seen him get injured a couple times now. I want to say in the Auburn game, and then he got injured in that national championship game. But
I think the Auburn game he got kicked off for targeting.
Oh yeah, game. He did. I'm sorry, he did get kicked off for targeting. So that was a coach.
I still couldn't believe, Saban was playing him on special teams.
I don't understand. And then didn't he get dinged up returning the ball or something, like on special teams? But I'm gonna stick with my theme, Mr. 401. I am not a believer in the quarterback that they have in the Jets, and both of these organizations haven't done much to make me have faith in them. I'm not going with Wilson. I will go with Williams just because Williams is with the Jets, and I have zero faith in their QB. I think they chose wrong. He will have to prove me wrong, and I don't care who the QB is in Detroit. I think they'll end up better than what is going on with the Jets right now. It's just a matter of time.
Zach is just going with the pretty girl again. I don't want to hear that. He's going with the pretty girl. He already said it in the cornerback.
Not really with this one, but I will look. I'm gonna echo Mr. 401's comments. I seen Williams' speed and Wilson. Not the isn't it Zach Wilson that's the QB in
your name.
So not Garrett Wilson, but Zach Wilson. No faith in him at all.
So
he will have to prove it wrong.
So no faith in the Wilson connection.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Wilson and Wilson, the law firm. I'm not so sure it's going to be that great next year.
It's going to be Wilson Moore in the Jets. Because Elijah Moore is still there too. So.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's
more Wilson. You get more Wilson, Zach.
Now Wilson will have a lot of opportunities at catching passes because I think they will be behind a lot.
Mhm.
All right. Well, defensive rookie of the year, gentlemen.
Well, when I look at it, I think it's going to be Kyle Hamilton, just for the first of all his ability, and I think he's going to a great situation in Baltimore. Baltimore knows how to play their safeties. That they're going to blitz. That's all they do is blitz. So what does that do? Rushes up the pass. What does that do? That allows Kyle Hamilton to get his interceptions, and he knows what to do once he gets the ball in his hands on turnovers and stuff like that. So when I look at all of them, we talked about the edge rushers. It's hard for rookie edge rushers to have a positive impact. One of the few people was Parsons, but granted he wasn't on the line. He was a linebacker. He was in a great situation in Dallas. But as far as what I think he's going to go in day one, he's going to have a great defensive team around him that is going to play in his hands. He can go out there and kind of play safety. They're not going to ask him to. I mean, he can come and stop the run, but that's not why they drafted him. But I like Kyle Hamilton a lot, so that's why I think he's going to be the defensive rookie of the year.
Can I go ahead and jump in?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm waiting on.
My rookie of the year would be Jordan Davis. I just think that for what he's gonna do, it would be like it should be easy for him. He's a massive human being. He should demand a double team every time, but he's not going to be rookie of the year because, as Calculated stated earlier, with kind of Aiden Hutchinson, you don't get those counter stats. Nobody cares that you took on a double team. No one cares that you on a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1, you clogged everything up, and the linebacker got free, was able to make the tackles, quote unquote, behind the line of scrimmage. You're pushing guys back, so. Since it won't be him, and we looking at counting stats, I'm going to go with George Kalafis. Is it Kalafatis? Kalafatis? I'm probably getting it wrong. With Kansas City, and I say that to say, they should. I don't think losing Tyreek Hill is going to kill the offense like that, so they should still be able to get points. Which, even if they're in shootouts, that means they should be in pass rush situations. And if he's on the field, maybe like that 8.5. If he's any good, maybe he's the one that reaches that 8.5 mark and he gets those counting stats. But I like I like your pick there to their Calculator, because that he looks like in the middle of that defense, he would be able to get some stats possibly if he can come in and play for the Ravens, Kyle Hamilton. But I'll go with Georgie. Because worst case, hopefully he's at least a 3rd down pass rush specialist.
Yeah, those are good selections. What about Devin Lloyd in Jacksonville? I mean, Jacksonville made a move to get him and a linebacker, and linebackers can accumulate stats.
But he's more inside, right?
Well, I mean, whatever he's going to be, he should be able to get some stats at that linebacker position, though. Get some tackles and Vegas has pretty high odds on him to be rookie of the year as well. So defensive rookie of the year. So,
I'm not sure any of the picks, depending on how the system go, could turn out well. Like he could very well be maybe a Micah Parsons, because I don't think people saw Micah Parsons. Right. No one definitely saw Micah Parsons being able to play like he played, but the way the Cowboys used him, it maximized his talents. So maybe but I'd say this: if Devin Lloyd is the rookie of the year, Jacksonville may be a little disappointed.
Or maybe not.
No. He better be defensive player of the year or rookie of the year, because he got like 11, 12 sacks. And
Exactly.
Trayvon Walker got like 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. And Trayvon Walker was getting double teams.
Yes.
That's what they're going to say. The film says it was a great pick.
Yeah, but Lloyd might be the beneficiary, So we'll see, though.
That better be how it plays out, because if not, you're going to have some sad faces for some dude.
Yeah. All right. You brought up Michael Parsons and Dallas Cowboys. They're always in the news, so we have to at least touch on them. I know we're in our K gun offense, but
I don't think we
we
have
need
to, but
we
okay.
the listeners out there, they want to hear a little bit of the Cowboys, and I know Zach, calculated you guys, the football experts. There's some things here that you could definitely just drop. It can be brief, but just drop some things on Dallas. What's Jerry Jones and his Cowboys? What do you think about their draft this year?
Well, I think they kind of this was more of a uh, building type for the future with the Cowboys. They really didn't have no pressing needs, so to speak. When you look at it, Tyler Smith coming out of Tulsa, he was first of all, he's a redshirt sophomore, so a really young guy. But I think a lot of people said he's like a big ball of clay. They got to mold this guy. I mean, for crying out loud, he's 6'5", 325 pounds. The guy is a great run blocker. I think they're going to kind of groom him at guard for a little bit to eventually take over for Tyron Smith a couple years from now when Tyron Smith walks away. And then with the Tolbert, the wide receiver that they drafted. Great route runner out of South Alabama. And, with Cedric Wilson going, Amani Toomer going, Michael Gallup recovering from an ACL injury. They say Tolbert could come right out of the blocks to help out in 3 wide receiver sets. And a lot of people say, well, he's out of a small college, South Alabama. But if you looked at him at the Senior Bowl, he did pretty well in the Senior Bowl. He was going up against the other better cornerbacks in the league. But again, I don't think they're going to lean too much on him. Again, he'll be 3 wide receiver sets, but he already got route running is part of his thing. And the Clark, the other guy, linebacker, they said they kind of drafted him like they did Jalen Smith back in 2016. Going to sit him back, let him recover. I think he underwent a spinal fusion surgery, was what he had. So again, they're going to. It looks like they might not even think about him in 2022 and just save him for the year. So I think a lot of this, they were just looking for the future. They had their starters, they're in place, and they're just the only hole they really had to plug was wide receiver. But again, that's why they have CD Lamb. That's why they brought back Michael Gallup to fill the X and the Y role, and just they can bring Tolbert along and not put too much pressure on him. And then of course, they're good at tight end as well. So they, but I think that's what they were doing. This draft was more of a look for the future for the Cowboys rather than immediate needs. And you got to look at their draft position. They just took what was there.
Oh, we
Any
were doing
comments?
a staring contest. Well, I thought we were doing a staring contest for a second. I didn't want to step on your toes again there, Mr. 401. I'm going to echo Calculator's sentiments in that the Cowboys, they have a lot of high-priced players because Jerry Jones, for whatever reason, he will say what you will, he will pay his people. If they give him some production, he is willing to make them the highest paid they position to do whatever, which is some of that is coming back to bite him in the ass right now with some of these contracts, i.e. Ezekiel Elliott, i.e. Tyron Smith. And, they have some other guys that they have overpriced. But I like the other Smith that they got, Tyler Smith, as a Calculator said, that you can either play him at guard or groom him at tackle for the future. I would say if he ends up being a starter, and their other tackle that they got out of North Dakota, though I don't think that's the Jackrabbits, though I don't remember actually what the Jackrabbit school was now. South Dakota. Matt Walazetko, and forgive me if I got his name wrong, but he's 6'8", 312 pounds. He probably could end up, I know as you were saying, groom for the left tackle, but Smith for the left tackle. But this guy is probably the type of guy you would want to left tackle because he's tall, need to put some weight on his frame. But if you could get him to be your left tackle, because he should be a little lighter on his feet than the other Smith, Tyler Smith, get Tyler Smith to be your right tackle power guy, that'd be a damn good draft for them. Like, I'd say regardless of the other positions, though, I like what you said about Tolbert too. It'd be nice if Tolbert could come in and find his way as a third or fourth receiver to help out because of what they lost. But if they could end up getting 2 starting tackles out of this, that is a hell of a win. And that's just kind of how I try to look at the drafts. I don't need you to get Hall of Famers because every team is going to have so many Hall of Famers. Like, look at Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers has been a Hall of Famer, has been an All-Pro, and has been great for the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years easily. Yet they only have 1 Super Bowl. But if you could end up somehow getting 53 guys that could be starters, though I know you won't get that many, you probably can win a Super Bowl with the more starters that you have. So I'll go building block, and they're just hoping that, they threw some stuff up against the wall, hoping some sticks.
All right. Well, there you have it, Cowboy fans. That's our discussion about the Cowboys and their draft. So you can take that and run with it. All right. When we come back on the other end of this brief, and I do mean brief commercial break, none other than the calculator.
Yay!
He's going to speak on his team, the New Orleans Saints. Can't wait for this one.
Vent session.
We'll be right back.
I was about to play my cash register. I thought we had another whole goody. But no, it wasn't a new sponsor. This is the original. I was about to say cha-ching. Hey, have y'all seen the LaMelo Ball Hulu commercial where they got the LaMelo cereal or whatever?
Yeah.
And he's in there talking and everything. Look, I thought we was about to have one of those moments where Hulu.
You never know what's coming up. But
Live sports.
It's time, calculator. It's time for you. We're in our draft grade segment. And it's time for you to talk about your New Orleans Saints.
I can't go above a C. And I'm going to tell you why. Because of the highs and lows that the Saints. I'm going to give you Thursday night in the Cooper household, right? I'm watching it.
Hold on, calculator, before you go too far back. How long have you been a Saints fan? And I only ask because I've been a Georgia fan, and I am often more critical of Georgia.
Yeah, it was my whole life because I grew up in Biloxi, Mississippi for the first 10 years of my life. And that's the closest football. So everybody on the Gulf Coast. Matter of fact, if you live in Biloxi, you couldn't get the Saints because they were blacked out all the time because they could never sign out. So my grandparents would have to travel to my dad's house in Ocean Springs because they got the local channel out of Mobile, Alabama, so that he could watch all the Saints and he didn't have to worry about, any of the blackouts or anything like that. So that's how I grew up watching the Saints and cheering for the Saints. It's because the whole family did. On my dad's side, my mom's side couldn't care less about football, but that's how I grew up being a Saints fan. My favorite player growing up, Morton Anderson, because he was the best player on the Saints for the longest time.
My goodness!
I was so mad when he went to the Falcons, guys. Y'all just don't know. But you guys being Falcons fans, the Saints and the Falcons just traded players back and forth.
Yeah,
Ironhead. Michael Hayes went from the Falcons to the Saints. So it was crazy how they traded players back and forth. But when they took Morton Anderson from us, I was really upset. But the one thing about this draft is
Bobby Hebert.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And Hebert, his first start with the Falcons, beat the Saints. They played the Saints. I watched that game down in my mama's basement when I was growing up. But yeah, I wasn't fond of that either. But we'll go back to this particular draft. I mean, I just got done eating the chicken wings, about to work into the nachos, right? And all of a sudden, I just see the Saints trade up to the 11th pick. I said, "Oh my gosh!" I said they're going to get Kyle Hamilton. I said, they're going to get Kyle Hamilton. Marcus Williams just left. Hey, my wife's saying, John, why are you saying? I said, we're going to get the best safety in the draft. I said, Marcus Williams left. I said, that's one of our glaring needs. I said, and because they jumped ahead of Baltimore, they jumped ahead of Minnesota. Both of them in mocks had that. So I thought for sure they were moving up to get Kyle Hamilton. And I said, I didn't care about the draft capital, that they were going, because they were going to get what I thought was the best, one of the overall best defensive players, but a guy that fits their need. And then they drafted Olave. and that's when the testosterone is released. The jalapeno flies across the room. But it's like, don't get me wrong, I love Olave. The Saints had three needs. They needed a defensive back, more a safety, more glaring than anything because of like I said, the Marcus Williams departure. I kind of liked their cornerbacks. I like Gardner Webb. I like Lattimore as well. So I like so they needed more of a safety. So that's why I thought they needed tackle because Armstead's going to be leaving, and they needed defensive end, in my opinion, to help. Mm-hmm. Cameron Jordan's not getting any younger. In the mock draft, you can go on our mock draft. I said they needed a defensive end. And they needed, and I could say a lot of people think there's a need. I wasn't big on a receiver because I like Marquez Callaway. I mean, yeah, I could be biased because he's a Warner Robins high school graduate, which was my alma mater. I like Traquan Smith. I like the little guy Deontay Harris, the little speed burner, and of course, we're thinking Michael Thomas is coming back. So I actually liked the guys that they have. I didn't think there was a glaring need, a need enough to where they would have to trade up to get a wide receiver. Again, we saw Burks fall in the draft, and you guys know I was a big Pickens fan. I wouldn't have mind Pickens with their second first round draft pick. If to be honest with you, so I was very I wasn't upset with the draft pick. I was upset at how they got to it and who they could have had instead of Olave. Kyle Hamilton. They'd have been at the B no matter what they did for the rest of the draft. But the Saints are known for messing up trade. Look at the Ricky Williams trade back in the day when they gave up every single one of their draft picks to pick Ricky Williams. Now, hey, Ricky Williams did good for him for 5 to 6 years, but then after 5 to 6 years, you traded away, 2 years to trade up for this guy, and they never got, anywhere with him. And I did see Ricky Williams in person when I went to watch the Saints game, and the guy was huge, seeing him in person, but still, and then I started having flashbacks. I said 4 years ago, Saints gave up 2 first-round picks and a 5th-round pick to move up 13 spots to get a guy named Marcus Davenport. You know what Marcus Davenport was known for in college? Poetry. The guy liked poetry. These guys move up 13 spots to get a guy that likes poetry. 2 first-round picks, a 5th-round pick. And Davenport, he's missed 11 games over the last 2 years. The guy can't stay on the field. So I thought they would have gotten a tackle with their second pick, but no. And I can't dog their second first-round pick. He was the best offensive lineman left on the board, in my opinion. Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. Actually, I think he was the number 4 offensive lineman in our mock draft as well. I can't remember which one of us picked him, but the guy we needed a left tackle because Armstead leaving. And I like the pick, Alontae Taylor, even though he's classified as a cornerback, they're going to move him to safety. He's more of a safety type of guy. He don't have the athletic ability to do that. But okay, so let's do the scenario that I just talked about. Okay, first round, we could have gotten Kyle Hamilton. And in the second round, now we don't need a defense back. Then we get Pickens. Pickens was there in the second round for us to get. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I would much rather have Hamilton and Pickens than Olave and Taylor. And that's just my opinion. And yeah, I like the linebacker, DeMarco Jackson, Jordan Jackson. He's a run stuffer. But again, we don't have Cameron Jordan's successor. But who could we have gotten with our second pick instead of Penning? The guy I actually remember the mock draft, Jermaine Johnson. He was there. With the second pick, we could have gotten another. We could have gotten another of these other. We could have gotten another second tier offensive lineman in the third or fourth round. Well, we couldn't have done third round because we used them to move up for this pick. But if they would have gotten Kyle Hamilton, Jermaine Johnson, and Pickens with their third pick, and plug the offensive lineman a hole later in the draft, that would have gotten them up to an A, in my opinion. But they did none of it. They traded all that draft capital, got Olave, who I thought, again, not a big fan of. He's a good receiver. I don't think he's a great receiver. I don't think he was worth, again, I like the guy. I didn't like the draft capital they had to get to him. I like the offensive lineman. He was, my number 4 on my overall offensive lineman to replace Armstead. But like I said, I wish they would have just stayed put with what they got, and then not broke my heart thinking they were going to get Kyle Hamilton when they moved up in the draft. So they surprised me, and I shouldn't be surprised because I'm still sore, and I brought it up 4 years ago with Davenport. So I'm giving them a C because they plug needs. And but I can't get plugging needs. I can get you a B- if you plug needs with without trade. But I had to downgrade them because again of the draft capital that they gave up to plug needs. But the Saints have shown they got a guy. They'll go up. They remind me of, believe it or not, the New England Patriots. And when did the New England Patriots, besides last year with Mac Jones, have they gotten a good grade? And we don't talk about the Patriots much on the show, but I think they're one of the few teams that got a worse grade than the Saints on some of the stuff they were doing. Because at least the Saints stay within, Olave was projected to be first-round pick. The first 2 picks for the Patriots were like 2 rounds later projected for what they were going to get. And they traded up in the second round to get one of their guys. So I didn't feel so bad about the Saints when I saw what the Patriots did. But yeah, that I got to go with a C just because they plug needs, but gave up way too much to do so.
Well,
calculator.
I'll go ahead and chime in.
So we know how you feel. Tell us how you really feel about your Saints.
Well, I just want to say, calculator, you are what make sports great, because you are definitely a fan, and it's great that you have a passion for your team. The only thing I will say is I think you're overlooking the pick of and I guess this is where I go back kind of like Calvin, the pick of Trevor Penning. I understand you don't like the Olave pick, but if Trevor Penning can, especially, and he's another tall guy, 6'7", 325, if he can be a left tackle for you, then like left tackles play in the league 10, 12, 14 years. You're set. And I think that right there would make your draft. And I get that, like Jackson would be nice, but he's a defensive end. And not trying to be funny, or a pass rusher. You can always find pass rushers. And even though you like I don't like Hamilton as much as you like Hamilton. I don't really see what everybody else is seeing with Hamilton, but he'll get an opportunity in with the Ravens to pull it out. And I said, Olave, he could be hit or miss because it's just hard to tell with that. And I'd say with any of those Ohio State receivers, it's going to be hard to tell. But if Penning, and I don't know much about it, like he's from Northern Iowa, it's small school, who's to say? But the linemen, if these guys can, as I said, just be decent starters for you. Think about Kansas City, and all you heard about Kansas City, say prior to last year. Oh, how great is Pat Mahomes? He's the greatest player ever. Oh, he's gonna set the world on fire and blah blah blah. And then he's missing 2 offensive linemen for the Super Bowl, and they can't score but 3 field goals. That's how important offensive linemen are, even though they don't get credit.
Yeah, but the Saints have been known to draft good offensive linemen later in the draft. They've hardly ever used top draft picks. When you look at the top draft picks, the Saints are going. They don't compete out of Stanford. Hardly ever on the field. Armstead was a later draft pick. I mean, there was that Max Mitchell, the guy that the Jets got in the 4th round, offensive tackle out of Louisiana. I liked him. There was another guy out of Minnesota. Escaping my mind, but I like the way I liked him. I just looked it up. Danielle Falale out of Minnesota. I mean,
great job. We'll say the name.
Yeah. So
we don't even know if you said it right or wrong.
See,
he sounded right.
Yeah. But he's out of Minnesota. The reason I know that is because I look at a lot of the people that Baltimore drafted, and they usually turn out good. But yeah, I mean, some of those guys, I think, hit those guys later in draft. Like I said, Armstead was a later pick for the Saints. I just did. I mean, and yes, the guy they've got top 5 in there. I just didn't. I think I would have liked the Hamilton, and then if you needed a receiver, Burks out of Arkansas. I mean, he could have been a guy you felt. But like I said, you could have gotten Pickens in the second round. But you still could have gotten Hamilton in the first round, and then the tackle. You still would have gotten your tackle in the second round, but then you could come back with Pickens in the third round. And I like that. I covered, instead of getting the cornerback out of Tennessee that move him to safety, I get a guy that actually plays safety instead of having to teach him the position and everything like that. And in my opinion, a better overall defense prospect. And then again, you plug the offensive need of Pickens at a wide receiver in the second round, because he was available at that time. So granted, you can't see that Pickens would have been there in the second round, especially with all the receivers that were going. But the guy from South Alabama, he was still out there in the. So there were plenty of other receivers I think they could have gotten in the second round if they would have spent their higher draft pick on a Kyle Hamilton. But I'm a Kyle Hamilton fan, so but so that could be my bias talking. But I saw Kyle Hamilton, I saw what he did against Florida State, and that's still in my head. So
well, all of this is kind of it is projecting, because as I said, when you watching them play against non-pros and then they start going up against grown men pros, and you don't know how money is going to affect them or anything. You don't know. You don't know. So Kyle Hamilton could end up being well. But if hopefully for the Saints, I would say if Trevor Penning can hit and he could be an all-pro type tackle, I know they still got to find a QB. But I'll just say this: they could finish second in division next year, right?
Absolutely.
Well, look at the division they're in. I mean, that kind of helps them out. Yeah. I mean, you have one team.
They're already third.
So I mean, you have one team breaking in a new quarterback. You have another team that don't know if they got a quarterback with the Panthers. So yeah, I mean, being in their division, they got a chance to be safe, and they know how to play Tampa Bay.
Yes, so I would say they could go.
However, they're able to play Tampa Bay because they can rush Tom Brady. Cameron Jordan's not getting any younger, and that's why I really would have liked Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State to be at their number 18 pick. So. Yeah.
Well,
or 19.
I understand.
Look,
I will defer to you since it's your team, and look, I understand that passion and how everything goes when it's your team. Trust me, because Kirby Smart's got about one loss before I start going back that I ain't a Kirby Smart fan no more.
Calling him Kirby not smart, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, this was not going to be as dramatic, but it's time to talk about the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm going to give you all my draft grade on my Seattle Seahawks. And don't be surprised at this, but I'm going to give them an A. All right. And the reason why I'm giving Seattle an A is because, I'm giving Seattle an A. You heard that. Charles Cross, offensive tackle. I mean, Seattle is working on that offensive line. Charles Cross is a high grade offensive.
Yeah, Mr. 401, you can thank the Falcons and thank the Texans for that.
Exactly. And what Seattle did not do is, there was a lot of talk about Malik Willis, replacing Russell Wilson, similar style, if you will. And they didn't do that. They went with the offensive lineman. They're building this team back the right way. And then in round 3, Adam Lucas, another offensive tackle. Now, he has a basketball background, long arms. We talked about long arms earlier today. He's a big guy. So they're addressing the line. I like that. On the edge, Boye Mofe. I think that's how you say it. But I like the name, so I don't care. I like the name.
That's right. Just say it.
And he's an edge rusher. And, a lot of things about him. I looked at the scouting report, and when you hear this, you got to like this guy. Powerful chop, obliterates outside hand of tackle. So whenever you have a powerful chop and you can obliterate anything, I'm going to take you. So, they're working on that on the defense as well. And that's the formula that Seattle had when they were in that Super Bowl run, where they were working on defense. They had a good running game, a line. And then you get you a Russell Wilson later on in the draft. So I think Seattle's doing the right thing here. And by the way, I like the cornerback too. Not only because of his name, but Kobe Bryant. I think Kobe Bryant's he's going to be solid at the cornerback position. But again, drafting defense, and also Kenneth Walker. He was a highly rated running back. He's probably, if he wasn't the highest rated running back, he was at least the second highest rated. And you got him in round 2. So I think Seattle they're playing this the right way. Not by no means does it mean Seattle's going to be in the playoffs next year or making a playoff run, but you can see the building blocks and you can see what direction the team is going, and that's what I'm more ecstatic about. And I'll drop the mic.
I'm not really into the grade thing. I'm more pass or fail. I thought I would say that the Saints passed, and I will go with that the Seahawks passed. And for me, it's probably the same old boring thing, but offensive lineman, if Charles Cross can play, then they just certain positions, they just going to be around for a long time. If you can keep the guy as a starter until you got to pay him an exorbitant amount of money, it's good football. And who's their quarterback they got now from kid out of Missouri, came from Denver? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't mind them running Locke out there. And I'd say run him out there the whole season. He either can play or he can't play. If he can't play in the division you in, you probably win 2-3 games or something, and you get a chance to draft the top quarterback. Or maybe Denver just didn't cultivate him the right way. Turns out he can be a functional QB. Mm-hmm. And worst case, maybe you give up a lot of draft capital to get a QB next year. But I'm good. When you draft offensive linemen, I'm always going to, if they're actually built like those big human beings and can quote unquote have the talent to be able to play, I'm always gonna, until they go out there and fail, say, okay, not a bad job. Defensive linemen, same thing. If you're getting big defensive tackles, I'm good with that too, because those things kind of translate.
All right.
So glad you're happy with your team.
Yes. Any closing remarks on Seattle, Calculator, before we go into this?
I like that Lucas guy out of Washington State. The reason I didn't mention him is falling to the Saints because he went and fell to the 4th round, was where the Saints I thought would have wanted to draft a guy. But I saw Kobe Bryant. I mean, he was a great compliment to Gardner. They had a great 1-2 punch out in Cincinnati. It almost looked like Pete Carroll was going back to his Legion of Boom thing, trying to get the good corners. Because I think he also drafted that Woolen guy out of Texas, San Antonio as well.
Right. Exactly.
And then both edge rushers, not just Mafe, but they also got that edge rusher that stood out of Ohio State, Tyreek Smith. So
yes.
They had more draft picks than they're used to having, and they looked like they were going to retool as much as possible. And they said, "Hey, we're going to pick 2 at every position, and and if one works out, we're good." 2 offensive tackle, 2 edge rushers, 2 cornerbacks, 2 wide receivers, because they drafted those 2 late wide receivers, Bo Melton and Tyreek Young as well. So, they said we're going to draft 2 of everything and see what happens.
Well, look, Calculator, that's what I do when I go to Publix. When they have the buy one get one special.
There you go.
If you could buy one can of applesauce, I buy 2 of them. What I'm saying? So what Seattle's doing, they're getting.
It's always good to have a backup.
That's right.
I concur with that one. Yes.
Well, Zach, you always keep you too. I get it. All right. All right, gentlemen. What was the steal of the draft?
This is going to be cheating, but I would say for the Philadelphia Eagles, AJ Brown.
Yeah,
and just the reason being, with these quarterbacks, especially when they're not proven, you got to find out if they can play. Like as hard of a time as I give the Jets about Zach Wilson, they need to find out if he can play. Same thing as the Texans to a degree with Mills, and just like Jacksonville with Lawrence. Because Jacksonville and the Jets, they gonna spend 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years on Wilson and Lawrence trying to figure out if they can play because they draft. Whereas the Texans might give up on Mills, next year. Jalen Hurts has next year. If he can't play, if he can't produce, they're going to move on from him. So, and that makes sense because you got to pay those guys.
Yeah, and I think that's what the Titans were thinking about when they made the draft. They knew they were going to draft a guy out of Arkansas. They said, well, they're a compliment. Yeah, AJ Brown's better, but Burks is cheaper.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So. But yeah, I think that was a fine, and you see that in Philadelphia says, hey, if we're going to invest a lot of money in Jalen Hurts, we got to make sure he's good at what he's doing. So let's give him all the weapons he can do. We gave him Devontae Smith last year through the draft. We're giving him a nice stud player in AJ Brown. We know can play. He just has to stay on the field. And then if he doesn't hit with those guys, we got to move on.
Yeah.
And that's why we look at next year when they could have 6 quarterbacks coming out in the first round.
Wow, it's going to be crazy next year. We're going to touch on that before we get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good tease right there. But for me, to steal the draft, and I'm going back to my team, Charles Cross.
Wow,
fell in the lap.
Mr. 411.
At number 9. The number 9 selection, and for him to fall to number 9 and Seattle gobbled him up, I think that was a steal of the draft. That's a position, as you stated, Zach. I mean, if he gets the job done, he'll be there forever. So I'm going with that as the steal for me.
And my steal of the draft, I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Jermaine Johnson. I cannot believe he fell to the 20. This guy did not come off the field. ACC Defensive Player of the Year. The guy can stop the run. He can. He rushes the passer. Okay. I like Florida State, but this isn't why I like Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson. A lot of some people said, depending on how to draft, he could go in the top 10, being one of the top edge rushers in the league. I think a lot of people were looking. And it's like he showed that he can shot now. Came from Georgia. Am I correct? So, I mean, he kind of knew he wanted the playing time. He wanted to show that he could shine. So he went to a
great decision by him.
Great. Yeah. Because there ain't no way he could have shown what he did in Georgia like he did with Florida State, because a lot of times in those ACC games, he was the best player on the field, you know? So that's what I'm saying. So but to fall to number 26 when like I said, I was so upset that the Saints passed over him with their second first-round pick, even though I knew they needed a tackle. Again, I won't go over that again. So I say Jermaine Johnson could have fell to the Saints. He could have replaced Cameron Jordan, but I'll be dog if the Jets said, hey, he can't fall any further. Jets traded back up to get him. And that's going to lead to what we think teams had the best draft. A lot of teams having the best draft is when they get what they would perceive as the player that slid the most in the draft. And I think Jermaine Johnson in the 20s. I couldn't believe some of the people I was seeing drafted ahead of him. But hey, some people. I don't know, what the knock on what them, but hey, at 26, I think that was a great steal for the Jets to get him.
All right, man, we're down to 2 topics, gentlemen. Which team won the actual draft this year? Which team won the 2022 draft?
Well, my guess is we're probably all going to be wrong about this because we're not, Nostradamus, and things will change down the road. I'm going to go back to Philadelphia, and I'll just say it just because, at least in my mind, it looks like it can play out that way. It may not play out that way, but you take Jordan Davis, and if nothing else, and I'm saying this in a very loving way, he's a big fat guy. You're going to stick him in the middle of your defense, and he's a big fat strong guy. He better be or he should be a big fat strong guy. He better be able to demand a double team. And he better be able to anchor and help against the run. And I know everybody talks about pass, and the NFL is that now. But if you can make a team one-dimensional, and we've seen this with Aaron Rodgers, for as good as he's been, he's had difficulty in the playoffs because when you have a quarterback just going back there throwing, eventually they're going to make a mistake. But not just that Jordan Davis is going to be there to demand a double team. he gets to play next to Fletcher Cox. So they should be able to help each other. Fletcher Cox now maybe gets a little easier time on first and second down because I don't think Jordan Davis will be much of a pass rusher. And Jordan Davis maybe gets a little less to show his limited pass rushing ability when he's out there with Cox. But going back to what I just said earlier, AJ, they made a move for AJ Brown. They paid AJ Brown because they're not paying their quarterback. And they're kind of going all in to try to win the division and see what they got. And I think they're doing to a degree, the anti-Cowboys thing, because the Cowboys gave Dak Prescott all that money. And now the whole kind of show is going to be on his back. Whereas with Jalen Hurts, he can either play or he can't play, and they going to move on from him. So I just say I can see that translate on the football field this year. So whereas everybody else's moves, and y'all will probably enlighten me, might be down the road 2, 3, 4 years or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I can, and you know, and I want to go ahead calculator because I have the same team that Zach just selected, the Philadelphia Eagles. And, you know, my dad's going to be happy about this. A lot of my first cousins that live in Philadelphia, they're all going to be happy about hearing this. But, you know, when I look at this, which team won the 2022 draft, I'll look at it this way. What team is going to come out of this draft based on right now today and feel like they have made a move up the standings? And I think Philadelphia has done that. So I don't have to repeat everything that Zach said, but they helped on the defensive side of the ball. They helped on the offensive side of the ball tremendously with a big, strong receiver that can now match up with the quarterback. That's going to help alleviate some of any accuracy issues that you may have with the quarterback. Having a big target like that. Yeah, having a big target like that and a big tight end, a good tight end as well as a receiver. So I think Philadelphia has put themselves in a position now where they truly can say, hey, we're going to win this the NFC East.
Yeah, and I think they got great value on Nakobe Dean, you know, in the third round.
And Dean as well. Absolutely.
I thought him falling to him in the third round. I thought Dean was good enough to go in the late first, bottom second, you know, or top of the second, you know, based on, you know, how things go. But for him to fall in the third, that's incredible value, right? Eagles said, okay.
Yeah. Maybe
Jordan Davis gave the GM a call and said, hey, man, I got a teammate that's still out there. Y'all might want to take a look at.
Yeah. You know? What are y'all thinking?
So,
all right.
But I actually have and I kind of preluded to it was the New York Jets. I think no, I excluded them with my rant session. I really liked what the Jets did. I'll just
they did
top points. Don't do it. Calculate.
I had Gardner as the top rated cornerback. They drafted him. I had Wilson, top rated wide receiver. They drafted him. Jermaine Johnson had him as a top 5 edge rusher. They moved back up in the first round and drafted him. Breece Hall, I had as the top-rated running back. They drafted him. A lot of people don't know about old Jeremy Ruckett, the tight end out of Ohio State. He kind of reminds me of a Blake Jarwin. The guy is really known for his blocking, but he's got some soft hands. I think he was great value because they're missing a tight end in New Orleans or in the Jets. And then I already talked about Max Mitchell. I like him as a guy that can learn from Beckworth. It should be back this year at offensive tackle, so he can. You know, you don't have to start Max Mitchell right away. He's a kind of a project. And then Michael Clemens, another defensive end that can rush the passer when you need to. So I really think, yes. You might not have faith in the quarterback. He didn't show much last year, but hey, it's not that they're not going to try and help him out along the way, you know. So, but yeah, I mean, I think they pick guys that and Ms. 41 briefly said it, makes your team better. And I think this team definitely made their team better because they got the top rated at a lot of their positions and positions of need. They really didn't need Bryce Hall, but hey, they saw him out there. they said, hey, we got a nice running back in Michael Carter. Maybe we don't want to wear him out too much, coming up. So let's get the top rated. And they're already talking about Breece Hall could be the workhorse, and Michael Carter coming in to give him a breather, because Breece Hall is known as a good pass catching running back as well. But I think they just, and a lot of people don't know about Michael Clemens. I saw him in a lot of SEC games. He was a beast off the inside. Texas A&M is known for their defensive linemen coming out as well. So I really like Clemens picked at the end of the 4th round. They didn't have many later rounds picked because they did have to trade a lot of those to move up to get Jermaine Johnson, but I think that worked to their favor. So that I actually had the Jets and Baltimore. Like I said, I'm not going to go in that, but Baltimore had a great draft as well. Just call me Kyle Hamilton fan, but
it's okay.
But I just think the Jets, and they're hitting what I think hit every pick in the 1st round, and having 3 of them put them just ahead of Baltimore in my top draft.
Absolutely. All right, we have one more question, but before we get to that final topic for tonight, just a little did you know right here, teams that have never had the first overall pick in the draft: Baltimore Ravens, Seattle Seahawks, and Denver Broncos. Amazing.
That just means they're decent teams. They never really had a bad season.
And that probably confuses some people, because I want to say John Elway was the 1st round pick or the number 1 pick, but he was actually, wasn't it traded, or there was a trade after the Colts took him?
Yeah, he said he wanted to play for the Colts.
Yes.
Yep.
Probably a good decision at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it worked. It panned out for him a little bit.
It did end up working out pretty good for John Elway.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's never too early. It's never too early, gentlemen, to look ahead. And we're looking slightly ahead with this question here before we close it out for today. But 2023 NFL draft. Give us some. Let's give the listeners some bold predictions for next year's draft.
So, I'm sorry, Zach, you want to go?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. A lot of things about next year is going to be the teams that are actually in position, because like say Jacksonville has another disappointing year, they're not going to go and draft a quarterback, right?
Let's say they do.
Yeah.
Don't be so sure about that.
And that's what I'm saying. So if you look at it, I see a lot of quarterbacks actually going high in this draft. And yes, I see that mock draft of a Will Anderson Jr. Out of Alabama. It depends. I think there's going to be a lot of trades, because I think you're going to have Will Levis, quarterback out of Kentucky. I think he has a high draft grade, preseason draft grade. Of course, Bryce Young. Everybody knows about Bryce Young. He's going to be high. Tyler Van Dyke's been getting a lot of press out of Miami, and then C.J. Stroud of Ohio State. I think you're going to have those 4 quarterbacks, and a lot of teams might be trying to jockey to get, or they could just sit back. Hey, if I'm a top 4, I can get one of the top 4 and not move up. But yes, the top defensive player is going to be Will Anderson out of Alabama. So, it's going to be based on need coming out of when they draft. Another quarterback that might be getting some draft, Anthony Richardson out of Florida, Grayson McCall out of Coastal Carolina. I've been hearing a lot of talk on those guys as well, but we got a long season to go with that. Jalen Carter, old guy out of Georgia. Zach can talk on him. He could be one of those, one of the defensive tackle factory
out of all of those lines. Absolutely.
And then, Jordan Addison, I think he's going to be the top wide receiver out of Pittsburgh. But again, we got to see what happens with teams and records before we can see. We can spot the pedigree, but where they actually fall depends on as the season goes on.
All right, what say you, Zach?
Well, first, that little mock draft thing that you put up there, that better not be right next year, because if Jacksonville is picking number 1 3 years in a row, it's going to be a lot of like not even try to be funny. It shouldn't be. They shouldn't have been picking number 1 this year.
But Trevor Lawrence. But hang in there. But hang in there for just a second, Zach. They're just basing it off of the order of this year. On this graphic, but mainly the names on the right is what we're looking at.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna give a little a little prediction that Jacksonville makes the playoffs next year.
Whoa, I like that. Well, yeah, another step
And
for Trevor Lawrence.
yes, and the team in general, in part because the division isn't going to be that strong. The AFC West should be very strong. And then with that said, there should be teams, that are quarterback needy picking at the top. Will Anderson is going to go like third because he'll probably go behind Stroud and Bryce Young. And that will be the steal of the draft because I think Calculator hit on it. He is the best football player unless he takes a massive leap back that's coming back. And if Kirby Smart and the Georgia staff has made any mistake in recruiting, how they missed out on him. And I know he kind of developed after the fact, like those things happen. He is a absolute beast. He can come in and like if he could play in the NFL right now. He has all of the physical. Now he would need to learn the nuances, but from a physical standpoint, he could play with them grown men right now.
That's a bad boy right there.
Yes, and he would have been the number one pick. Like it would not have been Trayvon Walker.
I totally agree.
So if it falls to where the top of the draft is quarterback needy, and I don't know, like you brought up Anthony Richardson. Say somehow it's that 3 teams or whatever need quarterbacks. Will Anderson is going to be a steal because he's probably not going to go before quarterback.
Right.
Steal of the draft, even though he is the best player coming out.
And that's why I think when the draft order gets that team in the third slot, they're not going to trade out of it.
No, absolutely not.
They said they're going to see all those people drafting up in the first and second round. They said, hey, Will Anderson will fall to us at number 3.
Yes,
I think the people looking ahead to that.
Like if anything, Jacksonville wants to be number 3 next year.
Yeah. Oh man, add him to those guys. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Or maybe finagle some kind of trade, or finagle some kind of draft trade. Maybe you trade the pick and slide down.
That would be if Jacksonville was going to have a bad season, it probably would be bad because Will Anderson fits on any team.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Like the quarterbacks going to be everywhere there. There's a lot of options at the quarterback position next year. But I'm gonna take the Jerry West approach. So if any team is out there listening, take the best player with your first pick, and then you worry about the rest later. Get the best player.
Yeah, because the best player, you'll fit them somewhere.
Yeah, they're not going to.
That's right.
You can go. That's not going to happen. The only reason it worked out that way this year is because it wasn't any sexy quarterbacks. If it's quarterbacks, it just everybody loses their mind.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you're 6 of them out there, you got 6 to choose from.
And the first if the first 6 teams need quarterbacks, or even think they need quarterbacks, they would, and it's 6 dudes they could play. They would go 1 through 6.
Well, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that it's not going to go that way next year.
That would be good.
If the Texans are really bad and the Falcons are really bad.
Oh, yeah. But if Mills can't play, he's out.
Yeah.
Marcus Mariota is holding the seat anyway. I don't think Riddler, I think he's already in backup mode, or he's just a prospect mode. And I will say Wilson and Trevor Lawrence will be on the clock. If either one of them has a terrible season and these teams are at the top of the draft, if they think they're kind of like what because I forgot about Rosen. But Rosen was supposed to be a really, really good QB or whatever. Arizona took 1 year of him, and then they went on ahead and brought in another guy. I can see that happen.
And with Kyler Murray being so successful right off the bat, I think that's what a lot of GMs are saying. It's a copy. Everybody says the NFL is a copycat league, and they say, hey, if it worked like that, let me see if I can do the same thing. So yeah, they Rosen did, and thing is, Rosen had a kind of archaic coaching staff, whereas Kyler Murray got the new offensive guy coming in there and throwing things around and stuff like that. So But yeah,
Well,
I think you're right. It showed that quarterbacks can be on the clock a lot earlier
Oh yeah.
now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, are there any running backs that's going to go in the first round next year?
I
It doesn't
mean,
seem like it.
possibly, maybe. Are there any running backs that's going to go in the first round in the next 10 years? Like,
Yeah.
And if somebody picked one, would you be happy about it? Would you say, well,
Right.
you could have just got
Yeah,
that
I'm about to
guy
say a
later?
lot of teams aren't happy when they
Like,
get it.
why didn't you just get the guy in the second round? Like, because I don't think the ones that got picked in the second round this year are bad players.
No, they're not. No,
They just,
they're not.
unless the rules change, it's hard to see it. Especially, or how about, are there any running backs that's going to go in the top 10? Because of it, when you
Next
make
season?
that leap, like some of those, well, just in general. Because
No.
if you make that leap, now you're really committing. And what did you say? Saquon Barkley injured.
Yeah.
Guy in Dallas
Zeke
not
Elliott.
panning
Zeke.
out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll keep an eye on that running backs in there.
Yeah, and look at the first guy. What was 2 years? Clyde Edward-Helaire. I mean, he's not even doing anything. He was a first round draft pick for the Chiefs. You couldn't ask for a better situation to play for, and it didn't pan out.
But again, that falls back on what we were saying earlier about these running backs. It's like even Clyde went late in the draft, so that's the trend now with the back. So just keep an eye on that, ladies and gentlemen, when you're watching these drafts, and take a look at the mock drafts and all the boards and everything. Is that the running back position is becoming I want to say it's like dinosaurs. You know what I'm saying? It's like becoming more extinct. You have to dig up the fossils and find them.
Well, I think it just comes down to more that they, and you said 2 years, but they might have a little bit longer shelf life, but probably not 4 years, right? And that's it. Look at all the guys, they get paid and then they're done. Yep. And it's crazy. Gurley, Christian McCaffrey, even though Gurley came in injured, Christian McCaffrey, like I don't think anybody thought Christian McCaffrey would have hit it this hard as he did. He was so good, but it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, it was great today. Appreciate you gentlemen being on.
You guys gave some great knowledge. And I like your passion for your teams. Oh, yeah. Here goes one running back, Robinson out of Texas. Maybe.
Where you have him going?
You just asked could anybody possibly go to the first round. I mean, I'm saying he would be a possibility.
Yeah, for his sake.
A slim possibility, I guess, depending back into the draft.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely see. But man, what a show today, man. We got it done. We did the preview and the review of NFL. So there's a lot of information here. So you can go back and play it again. It's on all the social media outlets. The Sports Brothas for Sports World is out there. So for the calculator and for Zach, I'm Mr. 411. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you on the other side. Have a good one.
Thank you. Appreciate it,
everybody.
Gentlemen.